Welcome to the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. We have made it to August 5th, 2020. We are here with Brendan, Greg, and Matt as your fake lawyers to be introduced to our brand new client, sexy zombies and their lovers. And Greg kind of falls a little bit into the lovers category, so he considers himself to be a zombieologist. So, Greg, why don't you start us off? Tell us about what does this mean? Sexy zombies, their lovers, your life,
It
and
doesn't really
you
mean
with
a
dead
lot.
bodies, Greg.
And let's just clarify, I'm not just refer to myself as a zombieologist. I have many degrees from many universities. I've guest lectured
Oh,
at Miskatonic University, many universities across the country and the world
give
on this
lectures at
topic.
Bob the Subgenius Lecture Hall.
Yes, they
Okay.
love me over there. But we picked that title just because sex sells, apparently. But really, I've been a zombie lover, or I should say a zombie fearer. Is that a word? Someone who's afeared. Someone who's afeared of
You're
zombies.
feared?
Ever since I saw my first zombie movie in a church, I saw Night of the Living Dead when I was 10.
In a church.
And I was been terrified of zombies ever
Wait a
since.
second. You saw the Night of the Living Dead in a
Feared
church?
is a word in Florida.
In a church.
He was feared of zombies. Just
Feared.
putting it out
I was afeared.
But
Yeah,
what kind of church
there
was this?
Well, I grew up
Showing
Catholic, but
zombie
my
movies.
friend was Protestant, and I guess Protestant people are more prone to hucksterism. This guy was such a charlatan. On Halloween, he had a print of Night of the Living Dead. He'd go to churches as like a nice, safe Halloween thing for kids to do so they wouldn't run around getting into mischief. And the way he would sell it was he'd give a little lecture at the end, using it as a parable for Christianity. Basically saying, see, in this movie, the zombies were non-believers and the humans were believers. It was such bullshit. So many
wait a minute.
So many kids were crying at the first 10 minutes, and parents had to take their kids out because they expected, hey, this is church approved. I guess this movie's okay. It's not kid approved or church approved. That movie's really fucking scary even when you're older.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think it's actually completely appropriate because Jesus was a zombie.
Yes, the first.
He
Well,
was like,
not in the
far as we know.
beginning.
not in
later,
the beginning,
later.
But he
but
became one.
Yeah.
he became a zombie, and that was sort of what drove his stardom. I think that Christianity are really a part of the client here. They're really zombie lovers.
But he was kind of like the opposite. He was self-aware, and he was also encouraging people to eat his flesh, not the other way around.
Okay, so he had some kind of weird zombie gender fetish thing going on, but
He
whatever.
identified as a different
Well, he
kind
would
of
be
zombie.
more like the Yiddish daybook, which is essentially a spirit that comes back to life that doesn't necessarily haunt, but has some kind of purpose. And usually, it's more of a nefarious purpose, though, than what Jesus' plan was, which is to get people to, come to heaven.
Is that like the
Yeah.
Babadook?
No, actually, I've
The
been doing
David
some
Duke?
reading. I was reading recently on the Jenganger, which is a Scandinavian term for a revenant, which is a spirit or ghost. But prior to that, I was reading on the Daybook, which I will. So it's a malicious possessing spirit believed to be the dislocated soul of a dead person. It's supposed to leave the host body once it has accomplished its goal, sometimes after being helped. So that's from Jewish mythology.
So that's the
So
thing,
it's
like in lots of
that's more malicious.
mythology, we've had ghosts and stuff. It's a common thing in
Yeah.
many cultures. But the zombie, which was a kind of a centuries old thing from the Caribbean,
From Haiti.
brought over from
Specifically.
Africa, but during the slave times, it seemed to really get traction. But they were always basically just slaves, mindless slaves of a master. They didn't go around eating people. They didn't replicate.
Well, I
You
think
had to
they
make
were
a zombie.
weren't they? They were
and you-
controlled by somebody, like the
Yeah.
voodoo doctor or whatever.
Yeah, the guy who turned them into a zombie.
So he could have
would
made them
control
eat people if he wanted to.
He could have, yes,
Yeah.
he could have. But there was something about George Romero in 1968 came up with a whole new myth for zombies that made them so much more terrifying. And there's so many more factors why. Definitely the replication, because that leads to end of the world apocalyptic shit. Where
Now, what I
one
was
zombie
reading about though
could
is
end the
that
world.
he wasn't really looking at them as zombies. He was looking at them more as ghouls, and kind of
Yeah.
based upon the book I Am Legend from Richard Matheson, which is really more of a story about people turning into vampires and living on. So it's like this whole undead theology that's out there in terms of what people believe and where it goes from there. But I think that the nature of the whole zombie culture is it's all very fluid in terms of what they become. So I know you have a big disagreement with the interest of zombies being slaves turned into that from voodoo because now you feel that
They're kind of boring.
I suppose, but it's the
They're not
history of it,
scary.
right? Well,
Yeah, yeah,
a lot of things don't start off necessarily as scary, and they get scarier along
yeah,
the
yeah.
way. But the things are changing along the way. But I still find it interesting that the word zombie got associated with Romero's work in Night of the Living Dead, considering he didn't even call them zombies; he called them ghouls,
No,
right? And so
but
I'm
they
wondering,
were though. He didn't call them that, but they were dead. A ghoul could be you or me who just likes to eat dead people. That's a ghoul, a human,
right?
alive
They're
creature.
ghouls, not
But
zombies, because the
zombies,
zombies
those
were
zombies were dead though. In George Romero's first movie, like you had to
Yeah,
shoot them
they
in the brain.
returned.
You
Isn't
could chop
really
their arms off; they'd still be coming at you. They weren't just human anymore. They were some new kind of monster that you could only
well.
kill them
Well,
by
the
stopping their brain.
Haitians zombies were dead. Also, they were just
They weren't
reanimated.
really actually the real myth. They really just were like deprived of oxygen. No, I'm sorry, this is reality. There actually are stories about guys who make these workers. Basically, they give them lobotomies by keeping the oxygen from their brain, so they became retarded, mentally retarded, and then
oh
they
no,
couldn't
not that word
resist.
again.
Yes, I'm sorry, but they were humans. Like you could slit one's throat, it would die, and
I think in the actual mythology of voodoo, the zombie is actually dead and it's reanimated through magic. That's the thing is it is actually
yeah,
dead, and it's the whole. It comes back from when they were slaves. Their biggest fear was that they were to die doing this manual labor and then be forced to come back to life and continue doing the slave labor for eternity.
like a living
That,
hell,
yeah, and then like that's where that stems
unliving
from.
them.
So, but it's
Yeah,
still I still think it's interesting because there was the term ghouls and ghasts and liches and various different other terms which kind of
yeah.
can be associated with zombies, and it's just interesting that the word zombie from the Haitian folklore got associated with Romero's zombies from Night of the Living Dead.
It's all because of Romero. Even though he didn't call them the first one, he called them
Yeah, but
ghouls.
he didn't, so it can't all because of Romero. It has to be somebody else
It's the innovations
chose.
that he created, though, made
Right, I
what
think
we
you're
like
missing my
about zombies.
where I'm looking at is more the etymology of the
Etymology, okay.
current zombie usage. In other words, who
And,
Right,
first coined the
I
right.
term
think
zombie for his things?
The
it was after his
etymology of
movie.
zombiness.
Pretty soon after his movie came out, I think in the 70s, people started calling those zombie movies because there was a few. There was a very small handful. It was basically a genre that barely existed for a long time. Now we can't even imagine that, zombies being so popular. But when I was a little boy, there was like 10 movies I could watch with that kind of zombie. Like me and my friends would hunt them down. There weren't enough for us. We'd be like, we need more zombie movies. They're not making enough.
So what? So it becomes like, what is the passion of the zombie? I sort of thought about this heading into this client and this whole issue, in that, is the zombie fascination really just not a matter of whatever the type of monster they are, but really just a fascination and a love for the idea of an apocalypse, that
That's a part of it, I think.
the world is going to come to an end, and whether it's zombies or aliens or whatever, zombies are kind of been a thing recently. We're all going to society's torn down. Everybody's got to figure it out. Suddenly, some redneck douchebag is now a superhero because he had to hunt squirrels because his family didn't have money. Whatever. Suddenly, it's this equalizing force. I think that more than the type of monster they are, it's the existential threat, and then the joy of like, oh, we could recreate society. Isn't
I,
that
Yeah,
what really people
I
I
love
think that's a very
zombies
big
for?
part of it.
Yeah, I think you have there's a lot of validity to that. I think a large part of it is if you can imagine the current conspiracy theorists, right? This is their utopia where they've proven themselves right because everybody else is dead and walking around, and they're the ones who, because they prepped for doomsday, they're the ones who get to be right now. So this is their great fantasy, and everybody who's called a sheep for having believed the government, well, they're now all the zombies. So the zombies, I think, are the analog for concept of being a sheep if you believe in wearing a mask to deal with COVID-19.
We're
Or
not buying guns. That's the
we're
crucial.
not buying guns. We're not, stocking up on toilet paper the minute anything gets weird. And I think that's what
I
it is.
actually have a couple of guns, but be that as it may.
I don't know. I don't care if people have
I
guns.
want a gun. I can't afford one, but I want one really bad.
You could afford one if you chose to afford one, Greg.
Would you
Hey,
give me a
Greg.
loan?
You
Greg,
always make these,
If you give me a loan,
you always make these assertions that it's impossible for you to do things because you're so broke. And yet, if you were to sacrifice some other thing for a period of time, you could save that money to buy
Yeah.
the thing that you want.
I could have a
Here,
really
here,
shitty life
Greg,
for 6
Greg,
months.
Greg, you just need to come down to Florida. I can hook you up with the gun, no problem.
A Saturday
Maybe
night
even
special,
for free.
$50.
Yeah.
He'll make you one out of wads of gum and rubber bands.
Oh
A Spud
no.
gun.
You might have to pay more if you want the serial number filed off, but
Well, you can
Other
do that
than that-
yourself, really. File off
Yeah.
your own seal.
you can do that yourself. Yeah, it's a DIY project for sure.
Yeah, if you know what
There's
a file
YouTube
is.
videos.
If you could afford a file, Greg, and that's a luxury for you.
Could I borrow the money, Matt, from you?
Pick up
So I can buy
a
a
$3 file from Lowe's or from Home Depot. It's like
That's
I would
one
sort of
less beer
pretend
I
that I have a gun, that I can file the serial number off. If I buy the file, it's like the next best thing. Having the tool with which to change that dangerous object without having the dangerous object itself.
Yeah, like give a man a file, gun.
He'll fish
He
for
has
a
file
day.
gun for a day. Give
You'll
him
rob a
file.
liquor store tomorrow.
Teach
So
him
I
how
think
to
it's-
rob, and he'll
So I was
rob for
talking
the
to-
rest of his life.
I was telling Matt earlier when we were talking about our client, is that when you brought up the word existential, that was part of the thing that I loved about those early zombie movies, even though I was too young to even know what that word meant, is those movies usually had a bleak, depressing ending. And it was usually brought about by the fact that we're our own worst enemies. In those movies, those zombies are slow and really easy to avoid as long as you keep your wits about you and don't start squabbling. Everyone does, though. If one guy's like, I want the gun, I'm in charge, they start fucking with each other, the zombies take over. They'd have been fine if everyone could just get along. So there's something Romero's basically saying in those movies that, like, yeah, even if we have a minor threat like zombies, we will fuck it up. Like even a minor threat, like look at COVID-19. It's not like flesh-eating virus. It's not like the thing in Stephen King's The Stand. It's people can manage it. Other countries are doing fine. But you can fuck it up just by being an idiot and by humans being stupid. And zombies, I think, is those early zombie movies, even the ones today, seem to always talk about that, where it's always us squabbling. That's what lets the zombies get in at the end.
So you're essentially stating by the end of this episode, the three of us will be zombies due to the squabbling.
No, we'll be squabbling and the zombies will come in.
They'll come and get us.
Or we'll all have COVID-19 just from fighting with each other.
It is interesting that this particular pandemic has created the full-blown dissection of insanity in America. In other words, it's all on display now. Everybody's far-fetched beliefs are all there, or everybody's complete and utter belief in the government being the best thing in the world is all there too. It's like this combination of things, and people who are just like, I like to be against things, but I don't know which thing to be against, and I don't know which person to deal with. And I like one of my biggest pet peeves right now is people who keep talking about the attribution of every death to COVID-19 based upon a couple of press conferences that they saw. And they don't even dig a little bit deeper to determine why that's such a ridiculous statement to make. I'm sure there are people who have boosted those numbers because they think they're going to get more money from the government. But they're saying that, you get shot in the head, and if you have COVID-19, they're saying that's a COVID-19 death. What they don't understand is that on a death certificate, the coroner has to state what they found within the person's body, but they'll still say what the cause of death is. So they'll still say it's a frickin' gunshot wound. The person happened to have COVID-19 at the time, but it's all being conflated into being the same, and they're using these things, and so many people I've seen on Facebook using this as the example. And I just did like a 5-minute dig into the nature of death certificates, and I found, oh, well, that's the simplicity of it. It's going to be on the death certificate. That doesn't mean it's the cause of death. So
I,
that's
Maybe
I
flu could be.
right. I honestly think that Facebook is the social media of zombies.
It
I think that
replicates.
people are posting on Facebook are just like,
it's not the Russians. It's not
no,
the Russians.
zombie,
The zombies have taken
It
over.
Share and like.
Oh, that's so true. I'll buy that. I'll totally buy that philosophy. That's what's
It is the worst. It is the worst social media of all the social medias. People like to bag on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. Yeah, Twitter's pretty awful, but Facebook is like it's awful, but it's your friends. It's people you know. And so you just have to just like go, God damn it! I didn't realize you were that dumb.
people you care about, and
The people you care about.
people
On
you
Twitter,
like.
it's yeah, Twitter. It's like Dragonfly69222 says some shit. I couldn't care less. I don't know who that bitch is.
I used to tell people the fact is that everyone on Earth is crazy. You just they are. People have semblances of sanity. They put on good facades. They appear normal, but everybody has that weird freaking thought knocking around in their head that you just don't know is there until the right moment. And I think this pandemic has given us an insight into those moments because people are starting to see you. Like Greg had a conversation with a mutual friend the other day where he's just like, I love her so much, but she's full blown nuts, And so it's like I've got people where I go, I care about you, but you're stupid. I just want to say, you're stupid. You're so stupid. Why? Why is this? Why can't you look a little bit into this more? I'm like, I find it. Distrust the government. That's absolutely necessary. I'm totally behind that. But seriously, you don't have to buy everything from one side and everything from the other. There are gray areas that you can skirt in between and recognize, where there could be some truth and where there's falsehood. And it's just the lack of.
You know, if there were zombies today, like for reals in this country,
well,
there'd be a lot of 40% of Americans wouldn't believe there were zombies.
No, Brendan's right. They're managing things on Facebook. That's where the zombies are.
I know, but even beyond that, there'd actually be people who believe there's be all these conspiracy theories. There's no zombies to scare us. Whatever.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there'd be Facebook posts like zombies are like down, and they're like, no, they're just on drugs, and that's why we need stronger drug policy. Those guys are on meth.
No, they won't say that. What they'll say is, oh, I haven't seen any in my neighborhood. Do you have any friends who turn into zombies? How many friends do you know turn into zombies? I think that's inflated because of the fact that they'll get more money from the government if they say that they died because they were zombies and they came back to life. But you're like, yeah, people are shambling around. I see that all the time. Just stay in your home. Be quarantined. Get away from it. It won't be happening. And then you'll be Herman Cain. You'll be dead because you've got COVID-19. Anyway, sorry, where'd that come from?
Brought that back to Herman Cain.
I don't know. Somehow it all tied together to me.
I wanted to bring another thing back that Brendan said too. Those early movies, especially Dawn of the Dead, the one in the mall, which they remade, and that movie is so much like half of it's a fantasy. When they're safely in the mall, and everyone's living their consumer dream of just like everything's ours. We don't have to pay for it. Nobody can fuck with us. The zombies are safely outside. There's like a good half hour of that movie where you're watching, you're just like, this is awesome. I love this world. I wish I could live like in a world where everyone else was dead, but I got to get to a mall and I just could do whatever, wear a mink coat if I feel like it, eat all the canned food and fancy things in the restaurant.
Eat all the canned food?
No, they're
fancy
canned foods.
The
like
fancy
that really fancy stuff that nobody normally can afford.
It's got a French accent, so it's fancy canned food. They also call that dog food as well.
Fancy feast is the cat food, isn't it?
Yes,
they can wear different
Greg
like
would eat.
Gucci outfits every day. It's like it's everyone's consumer fantasy.
I don't know that it's everyone's, but a lot of people give it the zombies.
Yeah,
the zombies prefer it because they don't understand that everything in the mall will run dry.
It will
for a period of time.
That's really a severe lack of strategic planning on behalf of those people. Like So that's it. The mall. That's your in-game. Yeah. Eventually, you run out of Fancy Feast and
There's too many
Gatorade.
windows
No
too.
more cat
You could
food.
farm on the roof though. You could set up a farm on the roof, a garden, bring in some soil somehow from
You
the
could
plants.
farm inside too, just like dig.
Yeah,
through the
yeah. There you
floor.
go.
And
Yeah.
it's
Well,
because
see,
they
I
usually
mean-
have skylights, right?
I think that
Yeah.
goes back to what I was saying earlier, where it's like the whole zombie thing kind of thrusts us into this weird, like, rejection of society. Now we're going to farm on the roof and, fuck the consumer requirements. I can eat Fancy Feast. I don't have to buy it because the world is falling to shit. And I think that's what makes it all sort of romantic. And then, of course, you get a bunch of dudes, for the most part, who sit around and go, yeah, if the zombies came, here's what I'd do. And you know who I'd want on my team? I'm doing my Florida thing. Billy Bob. Billy Bob's got so many guns. And then Cletus can fix anything.
All right, question: have you actually met someone named Billy Bob
Or Cletus
Yes.
for that
or
matter.
Cletus in Florida?
Yes.
You met both names.
Both names.
Oh, it's the world we live in then.
Yeah, welcome to
The
Florida.
world he lives in.
Yeah.
Billy Bob and Cletus.
I actually, true story, I was driving to Washington, D.C. when my kids were just little kids to spend Thanksgiving with my brother-in-law in D.C. And our car broke down on the side of the road, and a guy pulled up in this big jacked-up pickup truck. This isn't in Florida. This was in, I think it was North Carolina. And on his license plate, he had like special license plate. It was Butthole Billy, and that was his fucking rodeo name. And this is not bullshit. I'm not making this up. Guy gets out of the car, pulls up.
Billy.
Holly's pregnant with our son at the time. I look, and the license plate says Butthole Billy. This dude gets out of the truck with a cowboy hat on. I'm like, we're all dead. This is it. This is the end of me. It's deliverance. I can hear that. It's Butthole Billy.
You were gonna have to squeal like a pig. You were thinking. You're like,
I got a pretty
better get rid of that
mouth,
squeal.
boy.
I think I'm just gonna call Greg that from now on. Greg, you're now Butthole Billy from now on. And
Maybe that was like his
Greg is gone.
radical queer pride message. Maybe he was just like
No,
a gay
maybe.
cowboy. He's like,
Maybe.
I'm Butthole Billy. Deal with it.
But at the
Yeah,
same time,
I like
no one else
Butthole.
stopped to help except for Butthole Billy. So
I
you
know.
gotta give him a
Well,
little credit.
The moral of that story is Butthole Billy did stop. He gave us a ride into town. He saw that Holly was pregnant, and he said, because we had missed Thanksgiving. The next day was Thanksgiving. He said, you all are coming to my family's house for Thanksgiving. So we spent Thanksgiving
With
with
Butthole Billy.
Billy's family. And there was so much like it was nice. It was sweet. I don't mean this in a sarcastic way. There was so much like Christian, like good vibe thing happening. Like, oh my God, it's a miracle. Billy found you on the side of the road. You're pregnant and blah blah blah. And we were much younger than I am now, but it was really nice. But yeah, in the South,
Sounds
names
really
like,
nice.
the names like Billy Bob and Cletus and Dirty Foot.
Jethro? Have you ever met a Jethro?
Yes.
Okay.
He's apparently met them all, Greg. All of them.
No, I
Every-
haven't met all.
But you know,
of
the
them.
thing is that it's a really good reminder that regardless of what somebody believes or what they look like or what weird name or offensive thing they have on their truck, they can be decent human beings and they can help out other people in a time of need. And it doesn't matter what your political beliefs are, because I'm sure if they started talking to Brendan about what he believed at the time, they probably would have kicked him out of the house.
Probably.
They would have said,
What
"We
if
don't
my
want
name
no
was-
more of you."
What if my
Out
name
of
was
here.
Ku Klux Dan and it said that on my license plate? Do you think there's a chance that I would have invited you home for
That's
Thanksgiving?
such an awesome name, though.
I don't know. I guess it would depend on how
Ku
you
Klux
acted when I.
Dan. Or Ku Klux Dan the man. I don't know.
Dan the man.
I'm just enjoying that. It's horrible and fascinating at the same time. I think the word Cletus may have been a bad pronunciation of the word clitoris, and that's where it got shortened.
You
to.
think?
Boy.
I bet
No.
it's
How did
biblical.
this happen? Well, it
I
was
bet
the
there's some weird
clitoris.
character. There's some weird character in the Bible named Cletus, probably. All those old timey names, I think, are from the Bible somehow.
All those old is Cletus an old timey name?
Well, yeah.
I think
Oh,
it
by
just
the
may be
way-
it
by
might be
the
a
way-
regional name.
By the way, just to clarify, the Cletus that I met was black.
Oh, okay.
If that makes any
And
difference.
so he called himself Butthole Billy too.
Well, Butthole Billy was a white guy, but Cletus was in.
Oh, Cletus. I'm sorry, I got him confused. Okay.
Cletus was in Jackson, Mississippi, and he was a black guy, and he was the youth pastor at a African American church there.
Well, it probably wasn't short for clitoris then.
Probably
didn't
not.
ask.
Safe bet. But I like to think that could have been for somebody else that's how it started.
And that's where the name Virginia comes from, obviously.
Right. No, I think that comes from Elizabeth II or Elizabeth I, right? It was she was the Virgin Queen, and so they named.
And she had a famous vagina. She
A
was
famous
well known.
one. The
Yeah.
vagina went off on its own adventures without the Queen,
With Sir
traveling
Francis
Europe,
Drake.
meeting heads of state all by itself while she stayed and never married or had any progeny
Yeah.
to take on the mantle of the King of England.
The
Yeah, I
magical
can imagine
vagina.
the Queen. There's Queen Elizabeth and her magical vagina that traveled.
Queen
I
Elizabeth.
love that Broadway show.
That's it. That's the new band. Queen Elizabeth and the Magical Vaginas.
Although Broadway show's not a bad idea either. I think
Yeah.
that band could play at that Broadway show.
I think it would be off Broadway though. Very
Very
off.
off. Oh, it's like those the vagina monologues that came out. But prior to that, wasn't there like a touring group of guys who did things with their penis?
Yeah, penis puppetry was called.
That was it. That
And they
was
would
like the
twist it into
strangest
shape.
thing I'd ever heard of
Yeah.
that somebody would pay to go see. And it's like, why would you want to go see something like that? I just don't understand.
I
Learn. It's such a
accidentally
painful
ran
form.
into that at Lollapalooza, and I have not recovered.
You asked for a refund at
Wait, you ran
Lollapalooza?
into penises at Lollapalooza? What were you doing?
Practically,
Oh,
I was coming back
it's like
from,
running away from someone. Bam! I get hit in the face.
the food area or something, and I'm coming along, and I made a left turn, and there was like one of those side. This is early Lollapalooza, like mid '90s, early '90s, and there was a stage, and there was a dude with like I want to say I don't know if it was a bowling ball, but it was a fairly large size heavy sphere, and he had put a couple of fish hooks into his nuts and was picking up said ball with his balls.
Why isn't that guy in an insane asylum? Like that's just sorry. You just
I don't know.
That's
It's that whole
insane.
the whole piercing culture. I got a question.
I know.
Does somebody have like a radio or a TV playing in the background? I've been hearing it kind of throughout the show.
I think my neighbor's talking. That's him.
Oh, he's just like really loud. Does he know that we're doing an incredibly famous podcast? Well, you're
We're
not.
big in
Yeah,
France.
yeah, I should chastise him. I should be like, "Yo, keep it down over there."
Got
This
no
is
idea.
an international podcast.
We've got
damn it.
25% of our listeners are in France, and you need to knock off that extra noise there. Or maybe the French like the extra noises that we make, and they're like, "Oh, this is like Jerry Lewis. We're going to become
Oh, you know what?
beloved by the
I-
French."
I was gonna say maybe it's the smoking references and the fact that Greg smokes, and they're like,
Yeah.
the smoke.
He's like us. Oui.
So you both
We
go
like-
into French accents. Hello there.
Hello there. Let us,
How are you?
let us isolate the 30% of our audience who are French.
We were listening to you for a while till you started making fun of how we talk, you bastards. You American pig dogs. You must get gone. I snuff at you. I don't even know what that word means, and I'm gone.
My
You were doing the
wife
Monty
speaks
Python
fluent
impression.
French, and if we need her, she can come on. And maybe I could have her come on and just do some sort of French apology for all of us.
I
Like,
think it would probably be best if we keep all of our significant others out of this particular podcast. for
Like my
their
right-
for their
my
own
right hand?
benefit and for their friends' benefits, because the last thing I think my wife wants is any of her friends to listen to my podcast, because we have diverging cultures, she and I, diverging friends as well. It's all very carefully delineated as to not to bleed over too much, except for during holidays when we'll let Greg come over and spend some time and offend everyone else.
but see
Yeah.
going back to zombies, that's the beauty
Same thing,
of
Greg.
that's the
Zombies.
beauty of a zombie apocalypse is that because of the zombies and all of that, those kind of social constructs, those kinds of barriers to people talking fade away because you have this very, very important threat. And no matter if you're a conservative or a liberal, or you believe in shape shifting lizards, or you're a transsexual, whatever, you're all bound together to survive against this horde of human eating zombies. And I think that's another thing that people, I think, fantasize and love about the concept. I know I do. And that, I think about like, oh, when like I watch The Walking Dead, I go, oh yeah, I could see that redneck dude, and then that, the urban, kind of black hip hop guy, but everybody's got to come together and work through their issues because they've got a bigger problem. I think that's really the thing about apocalypse movies is that humanity comes together, whether it's a comet coming in or aliens or zombies. Humanity has to bind together and forget all those things that keep them separate at Thanksgiving dinner and, fight.
Well,
But that was the true horror of the Romero movies, though.
But what we've
The
learned
real classic
from
ones is Romero wouldn't have people come together, and that was the tragedy. That was the more horrific than zombies that could munch your innards.
well, but what we've learned just through our own pandemic is that they'll come together in the beginning, and then when people start
Yeah.
thinking about it and getting comfortable and starting to see where the advantages are, it all starts coming apart.
Yeah,
That's what we
that's
see in The Walking Dead too. Is you have these different groups that are created, and they're like, okay, I just need more of their stuff now, so that we
Right.
can survive. Because if you keep it contained, if you bring in incursions, then you're going to have more of an opportunity for people to croak and turn into zombies. But yeah, I don't know. So let's pose this to our zombieologist. So Greg, if you were in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, how would you survive?
Well, we have to talk about two different kinds of zombies. The,
I'm talking about
classic slow. No, I'm talking about me.
you. Okay.
If the classic slow zombies, I would be
Yeah.
like, I could survive this as long as I don't lose my head and I'm not stupid. Fast zombies, I would kill myself as soon as I could. I would just, how can I kill myself the quickest? Those are impossible to fight. Those are fucking terrifying. But slow moving zombies, yeah, I mean, basically, I could keep them out of my house. I mean,
But the fast-moving zombies, those are very popular movies too.
mhm.
For example, like what's that most recent Korean one that kind of has changed the genre?
Oh, that's a
Train to
great
Busan.
one.
Train to Busan, right?
Oh, that's good.
where
No, I
they're
like them a
Great
lot.
movie.
I like those movies, but I wouldn't, in that world, I wouldn't even try to survive. I'd be like, they're gonna
you're
get
just
me.
like, I'm going to become one of you. That's what
No,
you would do.
well, I don't want them eating on me. I just want to die nice and quick and painless because I know they're going to get me, and then there'll be 10 of them around me. Like those scenes in zombie movies that always terrified me was when someone gets caught and they're just sitting there going, ah! and the
Yeah,
zombies
but
are
why don't you
ripping
just
their
be the
guts
one
out.
who gets you like isolate one zombie off on your own, have them bite you in the arm, and then you just become a zombie, and then they won't eat you after that. You'll become one of them right at that moment.
But that's not good either. That's death. I'd be dead.
Well, it's
Your brain
death.
is dead.
It's death, and then you're back to life again, roaming around,
No, but you're not back to life.
seeing
Your
the
brain is
sights.
gone.
You're getting to like travel the
Everything that
countryside.
makes me is gone. Like they're non-sentient anymore. They're
Depending
just like
upon the
bugs.
movie that you're in, like
That's true.
if you
This
like,
is
what
true.
was it, Return of the Living Dead, the one that
Yeah.
had them eating brains for the first time?
Yeah, yeah.
And they actually started running. They had running zombies in that movie for the first time too. was
Yep.
Return of the Living Dead, and so they could talk a little bit, and they had still a little bit of knowledge of what happened before, and they were able to discuss that they like brains, so they could at least speak that much. So you could have
They're
that much.
pretty stupid, but they did seem to even have like callbacks to their old memories. They'd
Yeah, so
say
that's not a
things.
huge step down for you already, Greg.
I know. I don't really do much with my brain. My brain isn't well used anyway.
So
But I would just, I would
just be
survive
shambling
just by-
along.
I would definitely, I would not want to get caught by even the slow moving zombies. So I would just do my best to, find some guns, find some friends, definitely. Because you got to have friends. Because no matter how well secure you are, you got to sleep sometime.
Yeah.
As long as
Right.
it's one or four people. But fast moving zombies, man, I would just check out. I'd be like, oh, fuck this shit.
Well, there's got to be like some safe place you could be in, where you can
Yeah.
find a way to to manage it. Again, taking out the human element of screwing things up. Let's say you're with a group of people who are working together.
Hmm.
What would be like the optimum zombie sanctuary? Not for the zombies, but for yourselves away from the zombies.
This is funny that you say this because as a zombieologist, and
Yes.
before I was an accredited zombieologist, I was a zombie nerd, just as a kid. And
Before you were accredited.
I would seriously walk around as a kid looking at different buildings thinking, ooh, that's a good place. Look at that. No windows on the first floor, blah, blah, blah. You know what's a great place? Downtown Portland, that Armory. I think they call it the Armory. It used to be the Armory, which all got bars in the windows. It looks like a castle. It's all stone. I seriously walk around thinking about buildings where I hope I get to go to if there's a zombie apocalypse. You know what's a really good place, though? Porn stores, I noticed. Porn stores never have windows. They never have windows. They have all the edible panties you can eat
Right.
and edible lubes. And they got porn. So if you're lonely, if you're all in there by yourself, you got sex dolls.
Well, with the lube, though, you could just grease yourself up and the zombies couldn't get a hold of you.
And
It's
you
like
got
slip
the-
right
that
off.
guy you got the guy in the overalls, who's just
They get
you
a
know,
hold of you.
willing to suck your dick if
You got full body lube, you just squirt right out of any zombie huddle.
Eventually they'd get you. Come on. But no, porn stores never have windows. They're always these they always have great security doors because they're always in high crime areas. Like this big, bolted, I can't think of the word, like jail doors,
Yeah, I always thought the best place was a prison. I thought that when they got to the prison in The Walking Dead, I'm like, that's perfect. Not only do you have all the barbed wire and the tall fences and guard towers and all the kind of shit you would need, but then actually you have individual cells that you could lock yourself in. So even if the zombies came in, you could hide in there. So I think the prison is arguably the best.
And a prison has a yard, actually has land. You could farm there, but it's all still protected by huge walls.
Yeah, I thought in terms of the cells working out optimally, because plenty of people die in their sleep, right? So if you're in a cell and you shut the door, you turn into a zombie overnight, then everybody's safe from you too.
Right. Or Joe gets bit, but he doesn't die right away, and we're not just going to, put an axe in his head. So we put him in a cell. We talk to him throughout the night. In the morning, he's a zombie, and then we shoot.
Yeah, I think one thing that always came through my head when I was looking at it is like, well, the zombies aren't great climbers. They're not really good. Depending upon the movie, though, I think there was...
Yeah, World War Z, they're pretty damn good.
Oh, God,
Yeah, that's
World
true.
War Z. Fuck those zombies.
Kill yourself immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I recently found out, and I had no idea, but Mel Brooks' son was the guy who wrote the book World War Z.
Yeah, Max Brooks.
Really?
Yeah, I
Really
had
good
no
book,
idea.
by the way. You should
Yeah,
read
the book.
he also wrote like the Zombie Survival Guide or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, he certainly created his own career away from his dad. But anyway, getting back to like where it would be safe possibly to get away from zombies is if you're in a good forest where you can create tree cities. In other words, you'd be up from the ground. Again, not with the World War Z zombies because they can obviously just climb over top of each other.
No, in the book World War Z, Matt, that is
They're like
actually
coconut
at the end of the
hunters. They're
book.
just like, the tree.
The book World War Z is very different than the movie. The book World War Z, they are Romero zombies. They're pretty slow,
Oh,
and they
okay.
can't climb. And so at the end, when they finally fought back the zombies, there's actually a real estate agent talking about her new condos, which are all tree forts, basically, with gangplanks, and you can pull the ladders up if a zombie invasion ever happens.
Yeah, I was thinking that would be the way to do
Yeah.
it. I mean, the only drawback against it is if the zombies ever caught on fire and they came into your forest and then
Yeah.
you're toast. But for the most, and I guess you could haul dirt up, or find places you can get to that the zombies can't get to, but you can get to it because you're in a tree somewhere. It would be
Yeah,
like palm trees because access to coconuts and stuff. I don't know. Just that.
I think the tree house, tree city is way more of a cooler aesthetic than living in the prison. But I'm gonna stay in the prison. Plus, I'm
Me
in
too.
Florida, so they're all over the place. I got no shortage of prisons down here.
There's so many prisons. It's like there's prisons and girls and thongs on the side of the road. That's what is the abundance in Florida.
Yeah,
You know,
if it
Max
went down in
Brooks-
Florida, I'm not finding any tree worthy of building anything or
That's
a
true.
forest.
Palm tree.
Everglades.
No, Nothing. Just swamp and gators and meth heads. So I'm going to the prison.
I think that's the name of another band right there. Swamp Gators and Meth Heads.
Exactly.
They would be quite popular, at least in Nebraska, because it's something they're not used to, except for the meth.
In Max Brooks' original book, World War Z, he actually surmises that one of the best places in this invasion, zombie invasion, are like inner city schools because they've been so turned into prisons with the fences around everything, and they've got guard posts because now they frisk kids. They're like kind of prison like.
It seems like though that in all those movies that have something bad happening, a lot of them take place in schools, and it seems like there's not really enough places to hide. There's the rooms are kind of large, but I don't know. I don't know what would be the best place. Maybe a stadium, maybe, because they don't have a huge amount of entrances, or you just need to shut down a few.
And a stadium could work.
Yeah. You could have a huge farm in the middle. The whole center field, right field could be all farms.
I could do a stadium, sure.
Yeah, but then the idea is like, how do you get water?
There's absolutely no getting around, and I think the first zombie movie illustrates this. There's no getting around. You're going to have to do supply runs.
Yes.
You're just going to have to go out and face the zombies and go steal Twinkies or beer or whatever.
Yeah.
Or you find a way to get the zombies to do the work for you.
That's impossible. As a zombieologist,
if you could train them to go get things for you and bring them back.
Day of the Dead. He was trying to train the zombies to work for man, and of course it was a fool's errand, and he ended up dying and getting eaten by zombies. The zombies he was trying to train.
Well, going back to the Walking Dead, I thought probably my favorite character, at least for a couple of seasons, Michonne, when she had the two zombies chained to her with their jaws cut off and their arms cut off, so they were a distract. That was a pretty good use of zombies as a workforce.
I didn't think it would work though, because she couldn't walk with them because they'd constantly be reaching behind her themselves to try to eat her. They still want to eat her. They didn't have arms. No, but they still want to eat her. So she'd be trying to walk, but they wouldn't walk forward.
According to the show, by cutting off the arms and cutting off the lower jaw, they lost all of that ravenousness. They no longer had that.
True.
Well, no, I'm saying according to the show, that's how it worked out.
But that goes against all laws of zombieology, Matt. Do you hear what you're saying?
I'm just saying that in the show.
I'm not an expert. I just thought it was a cool visual.
They became docile, and this is what I've learned about the rules of zombieology: is that the rules change.
They do,
and they change all the time.
When they do, they're wrong. There are rules.
Well, the only rule is that they were dead and they were raised by a witch doctor. Then that's the only rule, because that's where all the change diverged after that.
Why some of the rules are important is because they make them more scary. Like, for example, some other zombieologists have come up with the idea that even though zombies are slow and they're dumb as fuck, you could easily outwit them. They have no other thought in their brain except wanting to eat you. You can't trick them. They have no sympathy. It's not like, oh, wait, I have a baby. Look, don't you have some sympathy? That's the scary thing about zombies. They will never stop trying to eat you. And no matter what you do, 24 hours a day, you got to go to sleep. They're still trying to eat you. No matter what happens, you rip their jaw off. There was in Day of the Dead, the one where the guy was trying to train zombies. He actually says, look, I've taken the stomach out of this zombie. He has no need to eat anything. He has no digestive system, but he still wants to eat us. Like you put your hand in front of his mouth, he's going to chomp at it. It's supernatural. It's crazy. I know it's fantasy.
Is it supernatural?
It's so terrifying, that idea that these creatures, they will never, ever stop. They won't have other interests. They won't say, hey, maybe we want to just relax today and not try to eat people.
So based upon that particular movie, that's what you're basing it on?
No, many movies.
All right, fine. But all I'm saying is that it changes. You can change those rules. Like they change it from, chewing on any part of the person to just wanting brains in that one movie.
Yeah.
And then being able to
that was still a great movie. I still love that movie, even though it wasn't.
Right, and then you go to 28 Days Later where it's, these creatures.
Those are not zombies, Matt. I'm sorry.
that run after you. It's
Yes,
still
they
there's still
follow the zombie
zombies.
trope. Yes, they follow. It's just like you
Basically,
were saying.
so what's the definition of an actual zombie? It doesn't necessarily have to have all of those criteria. The main criteria is that it's undead, that it was dead and came back to life in some
No,
manner.
what you said earlier, Matt, about I Am Legend, that
Yeah.
follows the zombie fear. Like they replicate, they take over the world. They will try to. I guess they'll eat you. They'll
Well, no,
suck
they're
your
they're
blood.
more vampires than zombies.
I know they are vampires.
Yeah,
they're
but
definitely
yeah, I was going to
vampires.
say the
But it's
I
got
Am
the same
Legend. They're
fear
not
of
zombies in the classic
but they are
zombie sense.
the same fear of like,
Well, they're
they take
undead.
over.
Yeah.
They've taken over the world, and they keep replicating, and you can't. It's still that trope, if you want to use that word, which I'm not even sure what it means.
If I want to use it, you're the one using
No, I
it.
said-
Speak for
that's what I'm
yourself.
saying.
If you
I
want to
don't
use
even
that
know-
word,
I still don't know what that word means, but I think I get the gist of it.
Yeah,
uses the
no, it
zombie-
is
it's
trope.
cow brains.
The
Greg.
zombie motif.
Trope
That's
is cow
right,
brains.
and that's stomach.
No, shh,
Trope.
shh, Brendan, shh.
Menudo
I had him
in
going.
in my culture. I know what tripe is, Matt. I'm Hispanic.
So,
Oh,
so
today you're Hispanic. The other day,
As we say, tripe in my culture. My
tripe,
people call it tripe.
tripe over your tongue.
let me ask you
Many
a question.
times I do.
Mostly, this is directed at Matt.
Oh no,
Were you a Walking Dead person? Like, did you watch the show? How many seasons did you get through? If you did,
I've
no?
watched all of it except for a large part of the most recent season. I've watched
Okay.
the spin-off. I watched Fear of the Walking Dead too.
Oh, okay.
I enjoy them. I mean, I like the dynamics between them. They make it more fun. I like the intensity of it. But there's so much ridiculous stuff going on.
Oh,
in that.
of course.
Like you never go, where are you taking a dump, folks?
Right. No, I get it. I
And
didn't. I didn't
How
watch
bad
it.
do you all smell now?
Right. I didn't watch. I didn't watch the spinoff, and I think I checked out. Oh, I don't know. Episode or season 8 or 9. Are they at 12 now?
I don't know.
They
I
stopped
stopped
finally, I
watching-
think, right?
I
What?
stopped
done, right?
watching
Aren't
the
they done?
season
I don't know.
before. The season before they killed Rick. The season before they killed him. That was the last. season.
Spoiler alert. Thanks.
See, I don't think he's dead though.
Well, okay. Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But here's
I
why
think
I was
that's that final episode was an opening to some other later storyline,
agreed.
just so he can go off and do some movies or something.
Right. So being that we've all watched at least that much of it, so my question is, in the beginning, The Walking Dead was a survival story. It was all about them surviving, and the zombies were like, that was what it was about, was fighting zombies, killing zombies, surviving, all that.
Yeah, that first episode was freaking intense, and I thought that's what really hooked me was just this guy waking up in a freaking hotel and going, "What's going
great.
on?" It's
But then, of
great
course,
unfolding that way.
Right. The later episodes, it's not about survival, it's about building a new society. And then the different societies that have been sort of come up fighting against each other. So my question is, which of the societies of The Walking Dead, given they're all flawed to some extent, is the best one and why?
So we're going into specifically the show Walking Dead now
Yes.
in terms of
Yeah,
what
why not?
works the best of all those.
In other words, and you can freeform on it, like, okay, so you have to build this. At some point, you get to a point where the zombies are just easy to kill because they're just wandering around and who gives a shit. And once
All
you
right.
figure it out,
Well, how about this? Why don't you start listing out all the ones that come to mind to you, and then we can do it based upon that memory.
Well, you got
of yours.
Nagel Society. You've got
The what?
King
Nagel?
Arthur.
What's a
Is that his
Nagel?
name? Nagel and the Negan.
Nagel?
Negan.
Negan.
Negan. You've
Okay.
got the King Arthur guy.
All right. Well, let's
So you've got
define.
different
Let's
societies.
define it a little. Define the society in terms of what its structure is, a little more than just giving their name. Like, what is that particular community about?
I haven't
So-
seen it.
So, what?
So
You haven't seen the show The Walking
I
Dead?
just know of that.
I thought you were a
society from the comics.
zombieologist. How could you not see a show that's all
Because
about
that show
zombies?
has pissed my zombieologist bones off so
oh
much.
my God, see, that's why I asked you, Matt, because I thought as a zombieologist, the most significant piece of zombie culture, whatever, is The Walking Dead. I mean, 12 years of zombie crap. Holy shit. Thousands of hours. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and that's what we don't see enough. We actually don't see the zombie crap either. After they eat, where does it go? I want to see more zombie crap. Anyway, It's like zombies crapping everywhere. He'd be
The
moving
second,
zombie crap. And would the zombie crap be alive after they ate it? Would it like move by itself down the road? That's what I'm wondering too.
depending on the mythology, yes,
I
they
guess.
never. No zombie movies ever talked about how zombies expel
So,
this.
Greg, I'm taking away your credentials as a zombieologist. I'm just eliminating them from you.
I saw the
because you-
first 9 seasons of Walking Dead. I just didn't see after Negan.
All right,
That's
so you
pretty much-
saw the first 9 seasons.
Yeah,
Right, so
I
you
get the
got-
gist of it.
Okay, so
You've
you made
got
it sound like
Negan-
you bolted pretty quick.
No, I kept bolting and coming back because this is the show I waited for my whole life as a
Okay.
child. I never thought there'd be a mainstream TV show about zombies, so I watch every zombie movie, no matter how bad it is.
Okay.
I love zombies.
Then you should watch every episode of all seasons of Walking Dead and For the Walking Dead.
I will eventually.
Did you watch
when I have the
iZombie
time.
too, that MTV show?
No, but I read the comic.
Okay. So it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I know where the term zombie came from for this particular genre after Day of the Dead. It was an Italian movie that was called Zombie that came out shortly after Night of the Living Dead.
By Fulci.
ZOMB, whoever it's by.
It came out after Dawn of the Dead, by the way.
His name was, Pepperoni. Whatever his name was, it was an
Hey, I
Italian
take
movie.
offense to that.
Oh,
That was
good.
Italian.
He's a French Italian. Anyway, so it was actually called Zombie ZOMBI. So I'm thinking that maybe there was like some translation from that came over to the U.S. where people started referring to the ghouls as zombies. Anyway, but getting back to the question of the societies within The Walking Dead, well, let's look at the first one. So the first one I think you encounter is where it's everybody in a circle with the RVs, right? That's like the first community where
I would say that that's still survival mode. I think the first one we run into is probably the governor.
okay.
No, that's later. They don't meet the governor until like season 2 at least.
Yeah, but I mean, in
Right.
terms of all right, so maybe like there's an earlier community, wasn't there? Like they were in Atlanta, and the community was these.
The old guy, the nice old man in his RV, and
Yeah,
the very
but
first season.
right. What I'm saying is those were still people that were at least loosely organized and just on the run.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is where they've settled into something.
Ah,
Well, no, there was like these Hispanic guys who had their own place in Atlanta, and they were taking care of old people.
Oh,
yeah.
yes. Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah,
they
yeah.
were like settled in. So that was like kind of the first one, and they're just trying
That's
to
one.
survive, and they're in the thick of it because that's where like the most amount of zombies was because around a large populous area you're going to have everybody who was not in their houses now out of their houses and biting people. So
Right.
there's that. So was that a successful experiment for them?
Well,
It seems
it's
like they might still be there for all we know. They could maybe go back to those guys. They could still be existing. But again, it comes down to where do you get your food and your water from? Where do you take a dump? And,
Well, I mean, the thing about that, because I had forgotten about those guys, the like kind of like almost like Latin King gangster
right.
Hispanics, was their whole motivation was taking care of the old people at the nursing home. So there was this rough guy, tough guy facade, but really at the end of the day, they were just trying to help the old people.
Yeah, they were like orderlies originally, apparently.
Yeah, and keep them safe. And
Yeah.
when that was revealed, there was a certain nobility and like, oh, because at first you hated them, and you know what I mean. They were like, oh, they're the bad guys, but really they didn't turn out to be bad guys. So, I'd give those guys a pass. Like if I had to become part of a society and I had to hook up with some Mexican gangsters to take care of some old Mexican women, I'd probably be okay with that.
Well, I don't think they were just taking care of old Mexican women. They were, I think, associated with like a nursing home or something. So it was people
Well,
of
okay,
different
so they were taking
nationalities.
care of. That's what I'm saying is that was sort of the construct. There was this nursing home, and there was a lot of elderly people.
Right.
Certainly, there were kids and other people involved as well. I'm not saying that was their singly focused mission. I'm just saying that their purpose was providing a safe place for these people who would otherwise be eaten very easily.
So I guess their next safe place was when they were at the CDC, right?
Mhm.
Isn't that like the next safe place where they got
That's pretty safe.
showers? There were
Except that
showers.
nut job blew it up.
Well,
Yeah,
no, he
was
didn't
sick
blow
as
it up
hell.
on purpose. That was part of the failsafe. Is like whenever it ran out of a certain chemical or something.
Oh,
Can't
you're
remember what
right.
it was. Like the failsafes kicked in, and it was going to destroy every virus that happened to be in the building.
I thought he almost wanted to though. Like he was
Well, he
almost like,
definitely he was
yeah,
looking
let's
down that
just
way
let it happen because
because he was conducting experiments and he
yeah,
couldn't get anybody else in the disease control business to come up with a
yeah.
cure for it either, and so that was like the end of that.
Can I
So
just say
the
what Brendan brought up was like very interesting about the zombie thing too? Is it brings up a big philosophical thing. The main first season, probably 2 seasons, was in this world. Are you Rick or are you Shane? I had very liberal friends who were like, "Oh, Shane's right on. Rick's being a total idiot. Like you got to get hard. You got to just be like, we can't risk any X factor. Yeah, I could be nice to this stranger, or he could bring danger to us. So
stranger
just
danger,
shoot him.
stranger
Yeah, just
danger.
danger, just shoot him. And it's like, well, do you want to live in that world though? Like, yeah, it's easier to survive, I guess, for you and your people if you're just killing anyone who comes up to you and just not even taking the chance that they could contribute to your new thing.
Uh huh.
But do you even want to live in that world? Yeah, you're surviving, but you're living like a fucking caveman who's like, oh, everyone's trying to kill each other. Not even, like you're not even human anymore. Like, I don't, even if Shane was right as far as, yeah, maybe Rick would have led them astray. They all would have died because he was, hey, let's be nice to these strangers. But what's the other path? Just, yeah, let's just lose our humanity. And
Right.
so, and it's something that dangerous, in a world that dangerous, a lot of us are going to confront that. People that you always thought were nice are going to be like, sorry, guys, I am kind of nice in a normal world, but I can't afford to be. I can't take the chance. I don't want my family to get killed, so fuck everyone else. But
Or you have an
eventually,
extended screening process. You know.
yeah, you could do that too. But some people don't even want to do that. They want to take the
Yeah.
chance. But
True.
basically, it's like, do you even want to live in that world? So yeah, you're alive, but every minute you're not trusting anyone. All humans are just.
But because of the nature of humanity, the nature of most people's drives and motivations, you're going to have a lot of people like that, but you'll have a lot of people who are compassionate and who are interested in doing
Yeah.
the opposite. So it can't be that cut and dry. Some people want it to be that cut and dry because that's how they live their lives currently.
No, I didn't say it's that cut and dry. I said there will be different people, but
No,
I choose Rick.
I'm saying
choose
that the
Rick
people who want you to be like the guy Shane, there are people like that currently who want it to be like that, and they'll try to enforce that point of view on other people, and they're not going to be able to get everybody to be like that, only the people that they like. And so you're going to still have all of these different factions handling things in different ways. You can be a person who can kill others if they need to, but still be a compassionate individual.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm not
And-
saying be a
Right.
wimp. I mean,
Yeah.
Rick is a tough guy, but Rick is also like, we got to be humans.
Yeah, I'm just
We can't
saying
lose
that
our
you don't have to
humanity.
choose which world you're going to live in terms of whether you only get one or you only get the other, and that's where you go. There's many different worlds that are going to be available, as evidenced by our current psychoses in our own planet right now.
Right. Well,
Zombie
where
planet.
that really comes up is where we kind of get to the next place, which was
Zombie
the farm.
loving. Oh, farm. Sorry,
What?
I thought
The
we were.
farm pissed me off so much that season.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
it's
first of all, there's barely
because
any
there's
zombies
no
in it.
there's
There's
no
no
zombies and there's no
And second
fences.
of all, there's no safety there. Like, why are that whole season? They're like, wow, thank God we got to Herschel's farm. It's like you're totally in danger. There's forests full of zombies all around you, but they're acting like we made it. We're
There's
in
a
heaven now.
road which takes you to them as well. So
Exactly.
there are gonna, but they did have zombies show up because they put them in the barn.
I know,
So I think
very
it's just because
rarely
they were
though.
very out in the sticks and more so than other places, and maybe that's how they get away with it.
Right. And,
Yeah.
and it wasn't. That was where I think that the series changed from just survival, which was, I think, your classic zombie pornographer horror.
I hear you
Why?
drinking, Greg.
He just wants zombie
was?
survival, kill the zombies. It's all about that. And I think that particular season really took that turn of what Greg was talking about was, are we Rick? Are we Shane? Because that's where all that went down with those two. And then you had Herschel, who was this good old guy and, had this nice thing going on. And suddenly there was this like maybe life could be okay. We don't have to just struggle. And then we go from that to the governor, I think was pretty much the next thing.
The prison and then the governor like a year later. I think they lived
Yeah.
for like a long time in the prison before the governor showed up, right?
Yeah, I think
Or
you're
no?
right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Sorry, the rabbit's back, hopping across my yard again. Anyway,
Okay, take your Adderall, Matt. Ignore the rabbit.
Adderall.
You can ignore that rabbit.
hey,
You know, they make good eating, Matt.
I do. I've had
Too
rabbit.
much.
I've
Yeah.
killed rabbit. So yeah, I understand. Done it. Plenty. It's
Have
just
you eaten their
odd for me
brains?
to see the. No, I've never eaten brain, to be honest. However, I'm not ruling it out that I would never eat brain. I suppose if it was in front of me and somebody else who considers it to be a delicacy had it and made it and they like the taste of it, I'd probably try it. Not
I ate brain. My dad tricked me.
He
said,
tricked you.
"Greg, here's some." And the weird thing was, he tricked me by saying, "Hey, this is called white liver or something," which
White
sounds
liver.
worse. And it looked white, and it was very mushy. It was almost like eating porridge or something,
Uh-huh.
as you can imagine. A
Well, I've
brain
heard
would
that
be
it's
like.
supposed to be very creamy. Like
Yeah,
brain
it's like
is
creamy. Yeah, it's
But does it
gross.
have like
Like-
does it have like a liver taste to it?
No, it doesn't at all. It was a total lie.
What kind
I
of
know what-
flavor does it have?
Not much. It's kind of just like goop.
Just a texture
It's
thing.
flavorless goop. My dad seasoned it and stuff, but it didn't. It wasn't like eating a steak, you know. Like
Maybe he didn't
any
cook
other-
it long enough.
I was going to say,
Yeah, maybe.
Greg, so how did he prepare? My mother was from Oklahoma, and she made brains and eggs all the time.
Oh my lord!
Brains and eggs.
Brains and eggs. So it was basically scrambled eggs with brains.
What kind of brains?
So-
Uh,
What animal?
calf brains.
I have a story about squirrel brains, but finish yours,
But-
Greg.
No,
But-
actually, I want to ask Brendan, what did the cow brains add to the omelet? Like, did it really have a flavor? The brain? I don't remember that much flavor.
It didn't have much flavor. It had more of a texture than a flavor. It added something that was a little more chewy than the eggs. And my mother seasoned it a lot with salt because that's just the way they did. So I think it absorbed the salt quite a bit.
Hmm.
Did it taste like liver? That's the closest I could come to.
Huh.
So it has like a little bit of that irony taste.
Yeah, it had a little bit of a gamey organ taste. You know, like if you've ever had, well, obviously liver or any kind of chicken giblets or any of that kind of stuff. They had that just like, oh, I'm eating a kidney. I can kind of tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents would occasionally make organ meat growing up, and I was never a huge fan. Although as I got older, I grew to appreciate liver and pate, the fancy foods. As
Oh, liverwurst is so good. I
like
love a
liverwurst.
good liverwurst sandwich.
I like Braunschweiger. It goes along.
Yeah,
with it.
Braunschweiger.
I've actually been putting Braunschweiger on salads recently,
Ooh.
which is like an interesting combination.
I
But
did want to
anyway,
bring something up.
That's a good
before we,
Ah.
if we, I don't know if we're close to wrapping it up, but it's called Sexy Zombies, is our
well,
client,
and their lovers.
and their lovers. And there actually was, in the late 90s, there were quite a very small niche genre of porno about zombie porn.
Now, how does that
They were-
work?
They were full-on porns.
Well,
it's
yeah,
fantasy,
I
you
get
know,
that
it's like-
part. But if you're zombies,
It's a movie. It's a movie. So, yeah, these zombies are rotting and they're zombies.
It was in the
But they're-
theaters. People
but they're-
saw it. They took their kids.
But their dick still works. The zombies' penises still work, and the vaginas still aren't all dried out husks, and they have sex. But it was like I thought I might be interested because I like zombie movies. I love zombie movies, and I love porn, especially back then when I was younger. But it was not good. It's not like peanut butter and chocolate. It does not combine well. Zombies and porn. It is
Zombies
just
and chocolate.
ridiculously
Zombies and peanut butter.
repulsive. It is not boner inducing at all. It's boner wilting.
Well, I think the concept of their lovers and sexy zombies and lovers wasn't supposed to be going into the porn territory.
I know, but
It was more to be like
Okay,
when
so I have
zombies
one
became
question.
sexy, and you know who loves zombies.
I have one question because I don't want to search this on the internet at all. So were the zombies screwing other zombies, or was it regular humans screwing zombies?
I only saw a couple, but I think there was some combos. There's some zombies fucking zombies, and like a zombie fucking a human,
Okay.
and none
to
of
know.
it was arousing. It was all gross and just silly. and
What? No,
ridiculous.
no. Other than the act itself, what was gross about it?
Because it's a fucking zombie. Like most people want to see semi-attractive people,
Right.
not undead, rotting corpses with like their
Right.
liver hanging out. Fucking
Right. So
know?
at what point
That's
did
not
you
appealing.
click? Did you press play on the DVD because maybe it wasn't click on
It
the
was definitely DVD. Yeah. It
Well,
was-
what did
yeah,
you think you were gonna see?
right?
I didn't know. I thought maybe I'd have some new kink.
You
I
didn't think it
thought,
would be
hey,
something?
maybe I'll be into
I mean,
it.
obviously, it's designed
No.
for humor.
I knew
No.
it would not be hot. I knew. I just had to see it as a curiosity. Like I gotta watch this. Yeah, I
Okay.
should make zombie porn, and I watched the whole thing.
Gotta watch
But
it.
It wasn't a good porno as far as
So it's just
I
it was
couldn't
just
use it in my work, but I could, as a curiosity
Use
of
it as your
media. Yeah, read between the lines, man. That's what porno's for. That's all porno's made for.
Your
It's for your work.
At
To
Burgerville.
use-
So
to
you have
use.
it's the sauce you give to them on the burgers, is what you're saying.
Oh no!
I
Please,
hope
no,
not.
No.
Yeah, I
he
hope
said it was
not.
with his work. I don't know what to infer from what he's talking
that's
about.
against the health department, so health code in so many ways.
Like slicing zombies and putting them on a patty, and
That would be
There it
worse.
Yeah.
right. So let's talk about zombies and the people who love them. So what makes zombies such a huge fascination for you, Greg? I mean, I have like a cursory interest in the horror stuff, but most of it's just silly. I watch it for just escape, for amusement, but there's really like no obsession for me associated with zombies. Why do you have some obsession with this?
I think it was that the thing Romero started, which people have continued, by the way. A lot of zombie movies do end
I'm
up
saying
pessimistically.
your particular obsession.
And I was explaining that.
Oh, I didn't know why you were bringing up Romero. So,
Because
of other
that's where
people.
it started. That's where it all started.
okay,
But-
maybe explain it a little more explicitly.
But it's not just Romero. Like, Romero really started something here. People pick up on this. Most zombie movies, it's one of the few monster movies. A lot of monster movies, they kill the monster at the end. That's kind of half 50-50. You never know. They might win and survive at the end. But Romero's were always very pessimistic. Humans always die, and it's always because they're stupid. And more than just how scary zombies are to me, the idea of being eaten alive, like zombies rip my guts out. It was like this recognition that, like, he's talking about something bigger than this. Is like humans are dumb, and I've always liked like dark European art films because those movies do like most American films are pretty happy and everyone's kind of nice, but I don't think the world's like that. So I think it reflected my worldview more than your average movie that was shown at the mall theater. For some reason, zombie movies could infiltrate your average Cineplex where they were showing Empire Strikes Back or whatever mainstream movie was showing. But it had this really like dark existential view of humanity that you couldn't really get from most mainstream, definitely not from TV. But even like most movies wouldn't show that. And unless you watch like art films from France or something or Sweden.
Well, I mean, it's
but-
basically showing cannibalism on.
Yeah, then that's terrifying. Just
So,
being
so the
alive.
question is, though, is what has created the obsession with you, though? Why is it? Why? Fine, you had some interest in the beginning because of the existential, blah blah blah. But what has
No,
made you
still interest-
maintain the obsession through the years to the grizzled nature of yourself now?
If
That
they
you're
could only have
still
video now.
obsessed
I was looking
by
at
with
videos,
zombies.
How grizzled I look in the camera,
Yeah.
but because it's the same thing, it's still a fascinating thing. It still fascinates me. Like this is all the things we talked about in the show, what people talk about, like politics. Everything is reflected in those movies. Class war. Dawn of the Dead is all about consumer culture. Land of the Dead, when
Okay.
Romero kind of came back, that is totally about 1% versus everyone else. Even in a zombie world, the rich are trying to stay rich and fuck over the poor. There's just somehow you can sneak all these social messages into zombie films. It's become a thing, I think, because Romero started that. It's almost seen as like part of zombie movies is this is a reflection of our culture and society, and it's a sneaky way to talk about things.
So if it's
Without
the
getting-
same thing in every zombie movie, why maintain the obsession?
It's not always the same. Like you said, there's different zombie movies that have different mythologies, different
Uh-huh.
agendas, but still a lot of
So
zombie
you
movies
accept the
still follow that.
change. So you accept the change.
I sometimes love some of them, even
Okay.
though I prefer the classic zombie tropes that I love.
Mm.
Whenever I see those, like the new Dawn of the Dead that came out, the remake, I was so worried about that because they were fast moving. I was like, oh, he doesn't respect zombie culture or whatever. I ended up loving it even more than the first one. I know it sounds like heresy. I think
But
I like
No, you wouldn't sound
The
like
remake of
heresy
Dawn
to
of the Dead.
us, Greg. It might sound to heresy
Yeah,
to
to a
other
zombie nerd.
zombie
Another
twits,
zombie nerd.
but yeah.
So-
yeah.
So when did the new one? You're saying there was a new?
It was like 2007 or something.
Yeah, like Ving
2004.
Rhames was in it, and
Huh?
Yeah,
Matt
it's-
Headroom was in it.
It
I
starts
haven't
off
seen it.
with the song
really good.
"The Man Comes Around" from Johnny Cash. It was like a really good opening song. I really enjoy the opening of it.
Oh, that opening scene's amazing.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna
that
have
was
to
fun.
look it up and watch it.
Brendan, at the very
Yeah, it's
least,
not
the
bad
first
actually.
10
It,
minutes,
it was probably one of the first zombie movies where I went, "Oh, I kind of like this."
if Brendan, if you watch the first 10 minutes of that movie, you will. It's some of the best first 10 minutes of a movie ever made. Like where holy
I'm
fucking
definitely-
shit.
Yeah, I'm definitely checking it out. So I don't know that I'm certainly not a zombieologist, but I'm a fan of the genre. So why? I think that for me, the anytime I watch a movie, generally speaking, I think most people do. You sort of project yourself into the movie. You're like, what would I do in that situation?
If I
Or-
were there, what would I do? Right, I got you.
Yeah, so I think that is common with any movie, but with zombie movies or apocalypse movies, it's really an interesting thing because you suddenly are up against something that's not like anything that you could experience in real life and never probably will, God willing. So it calls into all sorts of questions about, what would I do? And that guy just decided to make that decision, and that guy's being a Shane, and that guy's being a Rick. And I think those movies make you think a lot about some basic human nature that, in a really visceral way, that a lot of other genres of movies don't, in my opinion. Like when you watch The Walking Dead, so we talked a lot about that, you go, man, how would I react to that? Like, that the guy, I forget, Daryl's brother or whatever he was, up on the roof, and that whole scene, you're like, God, do I leave him there? How horrible is that? Do I not? Do I do? So there's a lot of philosophical conflict that gets brought to the forefront in a very gritty way in those movies that you don't experience in a lot of other movies.
Oh, good. We get Greg's sound effects again. Greg, you can't sit still, can you? You can't. Sit
I muted
still.
the whole time. What are you talking about?
You weren't
I
muted at the
totally-
very end there. You started
I
like
pushed in my chair.
slapping
I
around
did
things.
everything.
I'm like trying to listen to
Slapping around.
Brendan, and I hear it's like. That's the
That's
noise.
impossible. That was Brendan.
I don't get this from Brendan. I only get it from you.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Crying out loud!
Sorry.
It's like your ass cannot stay in a goddamn seat for crying out loud.
I can't. I got ants in my pants.
I can't answer my pain. I got my hand around the Diet Pepsi and the giant bottle of whiskey. I got to pour them all together so I can.
I
be
took
more
care of
interesting.
all of that while I was muted. I just sat down, pushed in my
I was
chair.
just observing it, enjoying, and then I was like, I'm just hoping that he doesn't add any extra sound effects. Anyway, so I totally get what Brendan's saying, what you were talking about in terms of putting yourself into it, and I think you're right. It does really delve deeply into the psyche as opposed to like other horror movies or horror shows, I suppose, because typically there's a fight or flight activity going on in all of those where there can be a finite end, and like what Greg was talking about, where with zombies the fight never ends. And there's only so much flight you can do too. So it's always like getting to some point of sanctuary, but there's always going to be that tenseness there. You're never safe. Like you think in the slasher movies, if you finally kill the slasher guy, then you think you're safe, unless it's, I guess, Mike Myers or in
Or if you leave Camp Crystal Lake and go to Florida, you don't have to worry about Jason anymore.
Right. Yeah. Whereas
not
with
gonna
the
find you
zombies, there's people everywhere, and as a matter of fact, even if you go to some deserted island, there's still the possibility of them floating up on the beach, and then coming after you on the beach, all bloated and watery, and with their eyes bugging out or hanging out of their skulls or whatever happens if you're in the
In Land of the
too long.
Dead, the zombies actually figure out that they can walk underwater because they don't need to breathe.
Oh
These
yeah,
people are all safe.
it's when they went to that one structure. I can't remember where.
Yeah, they realize we don't need to breathe. We can do this.
Yeah, because they're already dead.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, like, how can they work against the water though, pushing them away? They'd have to
Slowly
learn how to
walk through. It'll take a while.
I suppose. You know.
Okay, so I was
The
doing
current can take you away.
that's true. That could happen.
But yeah, I think that's probably the premier attraction to the zombie genre is because anybody can consider that that's a circumstance where they could try and survive through and how. So I think you get more involved because of that, as opposed to say like Frankenstein, where that's a lot less likely, where you'll have some walking monster around, where you could probably take him out with a shovel if you felt like it, or tie twine around his feet and then he's down.
Yeah, just don't go to Eastern Europe and you'll never see Frankenstein.
Right, and for
He
the
never
most
made it
part,
to-
or Dracula, really, for that matter.
Yeah, don't go to Transylvania.
Yeah.
Well, London.
Right,
or London.
right. Or in the slasher movies, it's the five teenage girls and guys who are having a slumber party, and you just you can't feel a connection to it across the broader spectrum of the population. Whereas with something with like a zombie movie, you could be like one of us, you could be a 50-year-old guy and go, well, fuck, I'm not going to kick anybody's ass like that young kid. What the hell would I bring to the table? Maybe I'd be the wise advisor. Maybe I'm good mechanically, so I could fix the truck like the guy in The Walking Dead, or whatever it might be. Or if you're the young guy, you're like, yeah, I'd be the guy that was good with guns. And then if you're the young guy, you're like, I'm not good with guns, but I can run really fast and I'm smart. So I'd be that guy. And so you can kind of, find yourself in a character and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And whether you're a woman or a man, old, young, you try to go, okay, well, what would I do? Like Holly and I, my wife, we've talked about, like if the zombie apocalypse, if there was a zombie apocalypse, who of our friends would we want on our team? And we go through like the people we know and go, Jason's got a lot of guns and he's really good with that shit. So okay, Jason's in.
See, you are a zombieologist, just so you know, Brendan. You are.
Yeah, I'm just a hobbyist. I didn't study officially.
Yeah. He's just doing he's a freshman.
Right. Or you've got the guy that's just really handy and can build shit. He's like the MacGyver guy that is like, well, I don't know anything about air conditioning, but let me see. Oh, there you go. It's fixed. And you're like, okay, you're on the team. And, you sort of like go through that whole process. And you can do that with a zombie movie. With a slasher movie or a giant monster, you're just like, who can run fast and hide best?
Well, I want to ask one final question before we kind of wrap up this thing and we get into like money and pizza stuff.
Yes.
Which is, who are you in the zombie show? What character are you? What value do you actually, as a real person, what value would you bring to a group of people trying to survive a zombie apocalypse? I already know I'm bait. So I don't know about you guys. I'm basically the one who falls down so the other people can get away. So I'm like, oh, damn it, I'm just too slow. Maybe I'll just hack
like in Zombieland.
So I'll just have like parts of me that I can feed to the zombies, like take off an arm and a toe or two, throw this, they can chomp on it. Anyway, but that's basically what I see my fun, because I have no real life, value really, other than yammering and talking to people and annoying them. So
you could make the PR
right.
against people not believing in the zombies. You could be like, you guys are wrong. There's proof here. I'm gonna. I
could find the right radio frequency to explode the zombies' heads. Maybe that's what could be done.
You couldn't do that.
Tune that. Figure
you
that
were just
one
a
out.
college DJ, Matt. You don't have that kind of skill. Just because you had a college radio DJ.
I know. I still know how to read books. I could find books.
Yeah.
Find books to do something with it. Anyway, but that's basically like the extent of my prowess in Zombieland. I'd be one of the first ones roaming around the streets.
Well,
really.
Matt, what about the fact that you're just an ethical man where I could trust you? Where like, yeah, Matt's not gonna like really. He can't. If I get bit or whatever, a wound, he can't. He's not a nurse or a doctor or whatever. But this guy cares about other people, and he's not gonna be like, oh, it's me and versus everyone else.
Well, I think
Um,
I would probably try to look at things more pragmatically and see and try and take a look at whether ideas are insane or not, and what to do, and how to
that
know whether you
too.
could trust
Yeah, you're a
somebody.
very logical guy.
Until I got overrun by the zombies, and I'd be the guy.
But also, I'd like a lot of people like you around me, even if you don't have great skills. It's just like, yeah, this is someone who has proven himself not to be just because I'm your friend.
Yeah, and I'll
That
be the
you're
one that the psycho kills first because I'm not agreeing with
That-
his point of view.
that could happen, yeah. But you'd be fighting the psycho. See, you wouldn't be on the side of the psycho. That's right
Okay.
there. That's
True.
the benefit for having you.
Continues to
Right.
happen.
You'd be
Because
arguing with him.
it still happens on Facebook. All right, so who would you be, Greg?
Yes. Well, I'm definitely like you. I have no skills. I could organize the comic collection in the apocalypse. Like, guys, we got comics. I'm all there. I'll put them in bags and boards, and I'll have them really well alphabetized. And but I'd like to think that, yeah, like I'm probably not going to be like, oh, I could live by betraying everyone. I was, like, but then again, who knows? Maybe I would be. I'm so scared of zombies. Maybe I would be that craven asshole. I did want to say real quick, I actually judge people that way. Like, you all probably had jobs with people who were just like sociopaths, who were just like, oh, I'm gonna just dick around, and everyone else is gonna work twice as hard as me, and I really don't care. Which I still can't understand those people that I work with, where it's like, are you serious? You don't feel bad about this? That you're standing there while everyone's working twice as hard because you're slacking off? I always think like they're the guy in the zombie movie. There's always that one asshole. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
The one who like is so scared that he locks everyone else out because he's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to open the door. Open the door. We still have time. No, I'm too scared. Like, he's that asshole who would
That's
do
who
that.
you work with. Those are the people you work with, Greg.
Some people I really think in that world, they obviously would be, because they obviously have no empathy. They're total narcissists who don't care about anyone else except themselves. And it's no biggie now. Now it just means, every shift I got to work harder because this asshole. But in
I
that
get
world,
the picture that you'd be
everything's
trying to get the
pronounced.
zombies drunk. You'd be like feeding the zombies booze.
oh, if it worked, yeah, I'd be like, drink with me, zombies. Let's have a good time. Why
Let's have
are
a talk.
you eating us?
Arr,
Let's have fun. Let's do karaoke. I'll teach him karaoke.
There you go. Get them to sing. All right, how
I'm
about
sure
you,
they can
Brendan?
sing Alice in Chains.
Yeah,
They,
right.
they probably have the vocal ability.
I think any of us who are, over the age of probably 45 is not going to last much past season 3. Just
We're
because,
chum.
yeah, it's just not going to work. I feel like I could be kind of a project manager. I think I'm pretty good at assessing people's skills and making decisions about who's on the team and who isn't. And I'd be willing to make those decisions where somebody might be too soft and go, no, that guy doesn't really contribute that much. So I think that would be my role until we got overrun and I couldn't run very fast and I just got eaten. And then everybody would be sad and they're like, what are we going to do without Brendan? And then somebody go, he was a middle manager. He didn't really contribute that much.
He really didn't contribute much.
He just told us what to do. He said put that guy on the wall because he was too soft. Okay, fair enough. All right, so we've got our roles. All of us would not survive if there was a zombie apocalypse. I'm glad we can be
No, slow-moving zombies, I think all of us could do okay.
very
'Cause we're all-
philosophical about
But
it.
basically logical people. We're not like, we're not hotheads. We don't fly off the handle and be like, what?
I think I would want to go to like a smelting factory to hang out. So if the zombies came, I could just put them all in the metal, the molten metal. Just like have like music set up so that they would all like go into the metal and like just
Zombies don't follow music.
disintegrate. What?
They don't care about music.
Sure
Zombies
they
don't
do.
follow music.
They might.
That's why I would be very careful about selecting my team and building my team, because I would know that at the end I depended upon them more than they depended upon me. So
I've always found the way to get rid of the in my mind, the way to get rid of zombies is you just start corralling them into things that utterly destroy them. Sulfuric acid, maybe like send them all to frickin' Yellowstone where they can all go into the sulfuric acid pools and just disintegrate. But like there's got to be a way to corral them because they're stupid, right? So there
Right.
must be a way to make that happen. And there's a couple of episodes of Walking Dead where some people figured out how to do it to get them into semi trucks, using sounds or loud noises or what have you to get them distracted so they head in that direction. Or you could use bait of some kind. Anyway,
There's also the idea that I totally thought would work, because zombies are basically like insects, their brain. So if you were on a canyon that wasn't that wide, you could just have guys standing on one side of the canyon, and all the zombies would just slowly keep dropping over the canyon. They would not stop. That's what zombies. Part of the scary thing is they will not stop, but they're also dumb as fucking insects. They would seriously just keep falling over that canyon. A zombie wouldn't say, "Hey, we got to stop doing this."
but canyons have openings and they could get out of the canyon.
No,
'cause they're not
but
dead.
they'd be pretty injured, so they could crawl out of it. Yeah, they'd be pretty harmless after that.
Well, maybe.
If they
would.
fell down
They're
a canyon. No, I know, but all their legs would be broken. Zombies still have the thing of, like, if you chop their leg off or break their leg, they still have to crawl around,
Right.
but they will never die.
Yeah, but then you'd have this big mound of zombies, and eventually
Yeah.
they'd just be landing on top of each other,
Yeah,
walking down, and then they wouldn't have those broken things, and that would just be happening. But yeah, there's got to be ways to be able to do that. I mean, they found ways to control it in the show. They just didn't take it to full zombie crushing and utter destruction mode. They didn't think big enough.
yeah.
So that would be like, I think another role of mine is like, how can we destroy them all in the most efficient way, so that they're in little tiny bits and they can't come after you at all.
Well, this is another nerdy thing I have, because I'm such a zombie nerd. When I watched season 3, or I think 3, of Walking Dead, when they were in the prison safely for a year, there should have been duty every day, 8-hour shifts. You stand at a fence with a pole and poke every zombie's brain through their eye socket, kill as many zombies as you can. Just keep killing them every day. It's like a job. Hey, you got your 8-hour shift. You're going to stand at the fence because the zombies are all there, and just kill as many as you can. You would have decimated all the zombies in that area eventually. After a year, you would have decimated a lot of zombies, because they might have turned into a herd eventually, which they did, and then they overran the prison. But, like, they were lazy. They were like, we're all safe here. Let's just be content. It's like, no, every day you should be out there killing as many zombies, depleting their numbers,
Right.
and you could have killed millions of them every day. Just poke.
Well, the
poke
problem with
and
that
save.
is you have a lot of decomposing corpses around you, which
Yeah,
can carry
but they're there
disease.
anyway. They're already decomposing.
I know,
They're
but
dead.
then it's worse then, because that's when the insects come into play. Actually, that would be better for the zombie shows. They should have more insects burrowing in and out of them for detail purposes. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's just wrap this sucker up and get into how much money we got for the pizza fund. And
Yes.
right now we're at $2.25. $2.25.
Is that also
Now,
in France?
I don't know where it's from.
I saw online, at least down here in Florida, we can get a Pizza Hut 2-topping pizza for $9.99.
Okay. Well, good.
I think we can get cheaper than that here. I think sometimes Domino's has like a $6.
They have a $5.99
pizza.
deal if you order a couple of things.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we've gotten 274 total plays, estimated audience of 25. So thank you, 25 people, of which 3 of them are here, and we've probably listened to them in different platforms. So yeah. Anyway, so do we feel that we've given our client due time, sexy zombies and their lovers? Have we?
I don't. I could talk about this for 10 hours.
Oh God, and I would die. I think.
I know. I don't expect you.
zombies
To. I'm just saying.
10 hours.
I feel we've covered the client in terms of the client situation and how we should proceed. I think that
Proceed.
I think that the zombies genre is going to morph and change. I think we've pretty much run the course of zombies because we just beat it to death with Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But I think apocalyptic movies with some crazy threat that you can't just solve easily is always going to be a part of our culture.
So how does that lead us into our next client? So for actually next week, everybody, there will be
It's mummies.
there's
our
no
next
podcast.
client.
There'll be no podcast next week because I'm going to be in a national park somewhere and probably have no internet access, more than likely. So we'll be taking a week off from this particular podcast from the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. But we should be thinking about what maybe we could do the next podcast is like the trip to the national parks. I could bring up those. If you guys have ever been in national parks, we could bring those up. How's
Never
that?
have.
Several national parks.
Okay. Well, we can talk about Greg's lack of having gone to any place significant.
Are you
as
not?
well.
Are you not a camper, Greg?
No, not at all.
No, he's more of an RV than a camper.
Camping's not comfortable. Why would I want to be uncomfortable? That's ridiculous.
Well, no, Greg doesn't drive, so he doesn't really get out of any place that's
no,
beyond,
I've been able to
beyond
camp.
beyond bus
I've
length.
camped at like
Okay,
kind of rough camps.
so let me just
Well, I'm
say
not
going
doing no
back-
camping. I don't do no camping.
Yeah.
I'll be in like comfortable locales.
Yeah.
I'll be driving to places from those comfortable locales.
All right. Well, going back to our theme here, I camp. I still camp. I pitch tents. I've done it in the middle of the night. I don't know if I can have you guys on the team. If you can't sleep in a tent or you can't pitch a tent at night, that's a problem for
Well,
me.
I snore too, so
Oh,
nobody
I
Yeah.
don't
wants
give
to
a
sleep
shit
with me in
about
a tent.
snoring. I snore as well.
Snoring's
Okay.
what brings the zombies.
Yeah, will. Sound.
Yes, they'll know it's human. It's the call of the wild human.
And menstrual blood. If a woman is menstruating, camping, during a zombie apocalypse, it draws them nearer.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
I didn't know.
Oh, wait,
that.
that's bears. I'm sorry. I'm getting
What
confused.
the hell are you
Bears,
talking about?
zombies. I get confused.